Assalamu alaikum viewers. Welcome to another edition of Raah Special. I'm your host Adnaan Mirza, and today I shall be discussing a topic that interests a lot of people. Because of our lifestyle in this day and age, most people tend to be either obese or overweight, and to lose that weight they end up trying different kind of diets. But more often than not, like within a few months or weeks, after their diets become successful, then they tend to lose their weight. But a little while later, they put it back on. So to discuss this issue on why diets fail, I have with me in the studios today Mr. Muhammad Asim Gul, who is a nutritional advisor and a holistic health coach. And we shall begin asking him on what's the reason that most people tend to lose weight initially with their diets, but then gain it back on. And so, in essence, why do diets fail? I would like to ask you this question that most people have. So, give us the statistics or a rundown on what the latest research says about this weight loss and diet connection, if you will.
All right, so thank you, Adnan, for having me here in the studios, first of all. As you pointed out, it's a very interesting topic, and one of the most searched topics, the questions on Google or any search engine, how to lose weight, what diet is the best diet for me, how to lose weight fast. So there's so many things that people have been searching for, people have been interested in because of and steady increase in the weight that they have experienced, as you said, with the sedentary lifestyle, particularly talking about the pandemic. So research shows that 2 out of 3 adults want to lose weight, women more than men. That rate is significantly higher for women. And so it's true that they're following different diets. Some diets are working, and it has shown that dieting has been effective. But the story really ends there. You know, how long can they put that weight off? That's the real thing.
Right.
So there was some research done on people who've been following different diets to lose weight in the Yale Prevention Research Center. And they noticed that they're following all those people who were following some of the diets that they thought would work. You know, there's so many diets that we...
Yeah, there's a ton of them these days.
There's so many, right? So there's a keto diet, a paleo diet, vegan, vegetarian. The
Right.
The list goes on and
Exactly.
on. So what they noticed when they were following these people for, a longer period, they noticed that they ended up gaining 2/3 of the weight that they had initially lost.
Okay.
When doing that diet protocol that they were doing.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And there's a lot of other research, that the UCLA research as well, which shows that the more diet attempts you make, the more likely you are to put on weight during your life.
Oh, okay.
It's like the more you are trying to sort of go in that zone of dieting, or maybe punishing yourself, or sort of like adopting a shortcut method, eventually you're going to put on more weight than a person who has maybe not tried any diets at all.
Oh, okay. So in the long run, you're basically saying it's better off that you don't diet at all and live your normal life. And statistics show basically the people who diet tend to gain back their weight again.
Exactly. I mean, so weight loss is a very sensitive topic and interesting topic, but dieting is not the only solution. That's what we're talking about.
Right.
Because the statistics show, and the research that has been done on people who are trying to lose weight, that it's not just sustainable. They're trying different methods, different diets that are coming literally every year.
Yes.
By some proponent of that diet is just throwing any of the diets, and it becomes a fad.
Right.
Just goes around the world.
Right.
There's media that's promoting that diet. There's a huge dieting industry.
Right.
That is running on all of these diets.
Exactly.
So there's this meal plans and exercise protocols that people have to follow, but how effective they are, it hasn't been proven yet, and it's actually backfiring in most of the cases. So research hasn't proven that any of the diets has been working in the longer run. Yes, if you are looking to lose weight for, let's say, a short period, 2 to 3 months, a lot of people do that, let's say, for short-term motivation, getting married, right?
Right.
They want to lose weight,
Right.
look good.
Right.
It's fine, but are they able to keep that weight off in the longer run? That hasn't been shown by research, which is interesting.
Maintaining the weight loss, that's the key issue. So how do people move forward? Because most people are basically looking for shortcuts. It's hard for people to control their cravings for a longer run. So they're like, okay, if this thing works for me, let me try this out, and then I can go back to that lifestyle. So how do we move forward then?
So let's first understand the major reasons why diets are not working for most of the people, right? So there are a couple of reasons that go into this, right? So first of all, let's talk about the physiological reasons, how our bodies function when we're trying to lose weight, or how we, processing food.
Mm-hmm.
So when we're dieting and trying to lose weight comprised of two parts. One is fat, the other is muscle. So when we're losing weight, we're actually losing both the fat and the muscle, right? And muscle is actually more effective in burning calories.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So the idea is essentially about losing fat, not the muscle.
Right.
Having more muscle mass is something that you should be looking at. You should be try to strike at all time. So what happens is when you're trying to restrict the calorie intake, you're losing your overall weight, you're losing your fat and muscle. And what happens is that your body needs a certain amount of energy to ensure that all the cells and the functions are just operating at its optimal capacity. So when you're losing your entire weight and your overall energy intake or energy requirement goes down, now your body needs fewer and fewer calories. It needs fewer and fewer amounts of energy than it once needed. So what happens then is, let's say your body is getting used to that mechanism for 2 to 3 months. Well, would you be able to stay on that much calories, that much energy for the rest of your life? So the idea is really about to maintain the weight. You need to maintain the changes that you have made following that particular diet. So that is one of the reasons why people do not understand. It's really not about losing weight. It's about losing the fat composition in your body. That is going to enhance your metabolism.
Right.
That is going to enhance your ability to keep the weight off in the longer run.
Right.
That is going to really help you in processing the foods that you're eating in a much better way.
Right.
So that's the physiological, aspect of it. Then let's talk about the psychological aspect, right? So people who are generally trying to lose weight following a certain diet, they are used to labeling food and saying that this food has too many carbs, this has too much fat, or these are too many calories for me. So often what happens is that when you are banning any types of food groups or any types of macronutrients, it backfires. Because take an example of grains, or they're not just calories. There's a portion of carbs in it, there's a portion of proteins in it, and there's some fat in it as well.
So it's kind of balanced. There's some sort of balance in there.
It's kind of balanced. When you're saying that I'm going to stay away from all carbs, I'm going to go on a zero carb diet.
Right.
I'm going to go on a zero fat diet.
Right.
What's really happening is you're eliminating those foods which are
essential,
which have a lot of other beneficial properties, like they're giving you lots of fibers.
Right.
They're rich in vitamins, they're rich in minerals,
right,
and a lot of other nutrients which your body needs. So what's really happening is understanding that food is a holistic tool that is going into your body and doing all sorts of work down there. You can't really pick and choose based on what are the macronutrients in that particular food.
Right.
That's one of the things on the psychological aspect. So there was another research done really targeting people's psychology about food and food cravings. So there are all types of people who are trying to lose weight. Some people who generally have a higher tendency to overeat. They were sort of asked to stay away from their favorite foods, which are candies, chocolates, processed foods, for a period of 24 hours. And turns out that those 24 hours were passed, they ended up eating 133% more
Than what they would have normally used
than they would have normally
in that time
eaten.
frame.
Exactly. So
Okay.
that craving was so strong, that desire
Right.
for eating those foods was literally like
Overwhelming.
it was overwhelming. Like you had this feeling of liberation,
Right.
right? And the foods that you were kept away from were the foods that really comfort you.
Right.
So understanding how we label foods and tell people what's good or what's bad, it's a very tricky business. Yeah, right? There's a lot of research on it, as I've already told you. So I think these are the major reasons. Besides, I think the emotional aspect of it as well. People, when they are overwhelmed with a lot of emotions, with different life events, stressful situations, they tend to eat mindlessly. They are not being careful about what they are putting into their bodies, right? And so when you're too distracted, and you're not mindful of what's going on in your body and what is the impact that is doing on your body, you just pick and eat anything and everything.
Right.
And sort of there's the signal in the brain is not functioning that effectively, and it's sort of switched off. Food is going there, but it's not sending that signal
To the brain to
the
stop.
brain that
or-
you need to stop.
Yeah.
You're full.
Yeah.
You've got your dose for the day.
Right.
So
Because it triggers those kind of hormonal responses in your body, which says, well, keep that coming, right?
Exactly.
I mean, that's
so that's how they say the gut is the second brain.
Yes.
Right. And I personally think it probably is stronger than the first brain as well, because it is affecting our emotions. It's affecting our hormonal levels, as you said. It's affecting the impact on neurotransmitters. That is something that is really running all the nerve impulses and
Right.
all the messages that are going to the entire body.
Right.
So it's very important. So understanding and respecting the gut and the mind connection is very important.
Right.
Understanding that your body would give you the signal once it's full. You need to listen to that.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. So these diets, the majority of these diets, the way they promote them, they basically are trying to say that what our diet is this one size that fits all, but it doesn't usually work that way. I mean, our bodies are different.
That's a very good point. I would like to bring something in here. So if you remember Sir Isaac Newton's law of gravity, right?
Yes.
He talks about how a feather or sort of a piece of metal would fall at different rates
Right.
in air
Right.
and in vacuum.
Yes. Yes.
Our body's metabolism is like air, which is different foods have a different impact at different times for different people.
Right.
So as you said, one size fits all doesn't work really well.
Right.
What broccoli does for you might not do for me.
Exactly.
At the same time, what pasta does for somebody else might not do that same effect for me.
Right.
What we say in holistic health is that one man's food can be another man's poison. You really don't know, right? And how you talked about the way dieting has been promoted is it's really about what they say is, if you want to lose weight, bring your diet or bring your total calorie intake to 1,000 calories per day.
Right.
If you want to lose weight, you need to come on 1,000 calories, 1,500 calories per day. If you were consuming 2,500 before that, the real thing is, are all calories equal? They're not.
No, some people do believe that though.
A lot of people do that, right? Now, the need to understand that all calories are not equal is so important that I'm just putting a basic thing in front of you. Are 1,000 calories of broccoli and 1,000 calories of Coke equal?
Of course not.
Now, a lot of people who are in this misconception for quite some time, they haven't even looked at what is the difference between foods which are calorically dense and which are nutrient dense.
Right.
Foods, fruits, vegetables, nuts, grains, and all whole foods which are packed of nutrients, those are foods we're calling nutrient dense.
Exactly.
When they're talking about processed foods, sugar sweetened beverages, candies, chocolates and stuff, those are the ones that we're saying they are calorically dense because they do not have any nutrients.
Right.
Right? So it's very important to understand the dieting industry when they are targeting, and most of the people who are trying to lose weight, calorie restriction is not a sustainable way, is not the key to weight loss. Really need to understand what goes on in it. And one more thing is we're talking about the fat mass and the muscle mass.
Yes.
So the idea that a thin person is a healthy person is not true. Let me tell you on that. So there's a concept of what you call TOFI, thin on the outside,
Right.
and fat on the inside.
Right.
The fat on the inside means this person has lost most of his fat because either he's not putting the right foods in his body, he's not exercising, maybe there's a stress, sleep deprivation, so the fat mass eventually goes up.
Right.
He's losing muscle day in and day out, and he looks thin. People think that he's fit. He thinks that he's doing better than the rest of the people out there
Right.
because he's
Right.
the BMI
Right.
is
Right,
good enough,
right? Right. Yeah.
But what really matters is, as I said, people who have more fat mass
Yeah.
have a higher tendency to be insulin resistant. They have a higher chance of getting type 2 diabetes and eventually death more than a fat person who has a higher proportion of muscle than this thin person.
Right.
So there's so many things, parameters that
Yes.
go into measuring what a healthy weight loss is.
Right.
As I said, BMI is just one of them.
Right.
Second thing is there's a waist to hip ratio,
Yes.
which is again one of the
Yes.
things that goes into it when you're saying which person is healthy, fit.
Right.
The
Right.
third one is also insulin resistance. So as I said, a thin person can have a higher insulin resistance than a fat person.
Right.
The more insulin resistance you have, the more tendency you have to gain weight. And then there's a cascade of problems that start with, weight gain and obesity,
Yeah.
affecting your kidneys and your liver function,
Right.
your heart,
Pancreas.
pancreas, and
yeah.
it just goes on.
Yeah.
And another thing is the particle size. What kind of fat and cholesterol is in your body?
Right. The
Right.
good one or the bad one.
The good one, the bad one, right?
Yeah.
So there's an LDL and the HDL.
Right.
So again, a thin person might look fit on the
Yes.
outside,
Yes.
but he is fat on the inside, which means he might have a higher proportion of LDL, which is the unhealthy
Low-
cholesterol,
yeah.
the bad cholesterol we
Right.
say, and a low
Yeah.
proportion of HDL.
Right.
So all of these parameters are very important in understanding how your body responds to different foods and how effective is it in burning calories and putting off weight for a long term.
Right. Right. And there's this another issue about visceral fat, which is fat on your organs. Like, I mean, you could have a fatty liver, your fatty kidney, or these different organs can have fat on it too.
That's
so
true.
how does that, that person might not have visual fat, like you said. I mean, it's not like fat overall, but inside on his organs, there's still fat.
Exactly. So the concept of visceral deposity.
Yes.
Visceral deposity is like you have these fat deposits around different organs, how you said. So different parts of your body will have fat accumulation happening there. And it might not show up on your BMI, on your weight scale, but this is a marker of heart disease. This is a marker of obesity, right? So really understanding in a holistic perspective is very important, how weight loss works and what are the things that we should be looking at to really sort of define health, what health really is.
Right.
Right? People watching this should understand that weight loss is not the thing that you should be really looking at.
Yeah. So how do we measure this? Like, I mean, when somebody's planning to lose weight, so they're exercising and they might do this go diet, and they're basically watching their weight every day, going on a weighing scale every day, and I lost a half a kilo or a pound or whatnot. But how do they determine whether what they're losing is muscle mass or actually fat? Because there's a time, like some sort of exercises will tell you that, okay, if you do it at this speed, then you're in the fat burning zone. If not, then that's not good for you. It's under that is not working, or over that's not working. So how do people actually measure whether they're losing fat or muscle when they're...
All right, so there are a lot of scales out there in the market right now which really help you in measuring your muscle mass. There's one way of doing that. It's not that you cannot really determine on a weighing scale, on a normal standard weighing scale, obviously you cannot get your muscle percentage. But following a few things on a regular basis can really ensure that your body is putting on enough muscle or is changing the proportion around by losing fat and gaining more muscle, right? How you said, it's a mix of all the things that we do to lose weight and put it off in the longer term. So it's the foods that you're eating, the type of exercises that you are being a part of, and everything. So it just goes hand in hand to help you gain some muscle mass, and eventually that number on the weighing scale, it's not just a number, but it's a reminder that something good is happening. It will only happen when you're doing all of the things at the same time, not just taking one at a time. That's what right? So really, let's come back to sort of what are the real challenges that people face when they're losing weight, and what are the things that they take for granted, the things that they should really be looking at if they want to lose weight in a sustainable way. I personally feel it's very important for people to adopt strategies. One of the strategies that I feel is effective is crowding out. So crowding out strategy is basically bringing in more healthy and whole foods into your diet rather than eliminating foods from your diet. What most people do when they're losing weight is get rid of this because it has too many carbs, get rid of this because there's too many calories and fats. Don't do that. Bring in more whole foods, bring in more fruits and vegetables, some nuts, seeds, whole grains, some lean meat.
The complex carbs.
Complex carbs, exactly. Complex carbs, healthy fats, and a variety of protein.
Right.
That's the key.
Right.
The complex carbs, by that I mean whole grains,
yes,
fruits and vegetables. These are the three rich sources of complex carbs that you cannot get in, let's say, all the packaged foods.
On processed foods.
All the processed foods. So the bread wasn't a product that was made on a crop.
Right.
Right? Pasta wasn't made on a crop.
Right.
All of these are coming from somewhere. Go back to those grains. Go back to those initial raw products where they're coming from. And so really going back to the concept of eating those things which are made on a plant,
right,
not in a plant.
Right. Exactly.
Right. So it's very important. And coming to, so this was for carbs. For fats, now there's so many types of fats. Really, which fats are you choosing? Maybe in today's program we cannot really go into
in depth
that much depth.
Yes,
but really choosing a variety of fats, the healthy fats, which are found in fish, olive oil, nuts, and seeds. These are the ones that you should be looking for.
Right.
People now, I asked a friend of mine, like, which do you think is a healthy fat? He said, I think burgers have lots of healthy fats, and which is surprising. I was like, why would you think so? It's like, because we have been told that animal meat has fat, and so if I'm eating lots of burgers, I'm getting lots of fat, and which is going to keep me healthy.
Yeah.
So fats have been demonized for quite some time.
Yes.
And they've been told that fats are not good, they're bad, but the healthy fats, if you actually eat them, they're going to help you in staying slim and smart and healthy.
And sometimes these products which are marketed as better than the fatty alternative, let's say like margarine.
Yeah.
But margarine is not actually a healthy alternative to
just,
it's worse actually.
It's just hydrogenated oil which is solid at room temperature, which is a pure trans fat.
Yeah, exactly.
Right, and there is no safe level of consumption of trans fats.
Right.
And it's literally 2% consumption of trans fat leads to a 20% risk of heart disease.
Which basically increases the triglycerides in your body as well.
Exactly, yeah. Triglycerides go up, and then your cholesterol imbalance strikes.
Right.
The chances of heart disease go up, and that is obviously the leading cause of death all over the world right now. So we really need to understand it is caused by the foods that we choose.
Right.
And again, the diets that we opt for.
Right.
So coming back to said like crowding out effect, the moment you start adding whole foods into your diet, there would be a point that rather than craving unhealthy foods and processed foods, there would be time you would actually reach out to these healthy alternatives. You would actually crave these foods more, which is surprising. A lot of people don't understand that. They say these whole foods are so bland. They are not that sweet. They are not that salty. They're not that spicy.
Right.
And they don't have the same effect on our taste buds as all those processed foods are.
Right. Right.
That's not true. Speaking from my own example and a lot of other people who have started adding whole foods in their diets, they've noticed that there would be days they would crave leafy greens. There would be days they would crave whole grain beans and stuff like that, and nuts and stuff. Right?
Yes.
And they would just develop this aversion towards the processed foods. They're like, I had a slice of cake, but it's not that appealing to me anymore. I don't need that much of it anymore. So you'd start staying away from it. So the concept of crowding out is the most important thing for anybody who not just wants to lose weight, but also wants to stay healthy for the rest of their lives. And the idea is this impacts your food psychology. It's helping you rewire your program of the body. Reaching out to the right food is the main thing that you would need, so that you're not punishing yourself from saying, okay, I'm the person who craves these foods, and now I have to stay away from these foods. Right? There would be a moment, there would be a time where it would be like, my body doesn't need that anymore. I can survive on the whole foods. I'm doing much better. Why do I need these foods? Right? That's a very important thing.
Right.
Then let's talk about, I think you're also a very good, strong proponent on good eating habits, right? So we were discussing about chewing.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. Yes. So what are the healthy habits that we can incorporate in our lifestyle without even resorting to such diets and whatnot? I mean, there's like chewing is probably one of the things, eating in moderation. So how these habits have been proven by science.
Definitely.
So I mean, like we can revert back to these teachings that we had for so long.
So long.
Yeah.
Let's just focus on the concept of chewing.
Right.
Right. So science says, and not just science, but a lot of religions have also talked about the benefits of chewing your food properly.
Right.
So the ideal amount or the ideal number of times you need to chew your food is 32 times per bite, which may sound a lot, but when you start doing it, you will see that, okay, it's not that much.
Right.
It's like really churning your food, and it's really doing the job.
Right.
When you don't chew your food properly, and this is the missing link, like a lot of people don't.
Yes.
They're so busy.
Yes.
They're so distracted.
Right.
They just want to finish up their food so that they can get back to work.
Right.
Right? When you don't chew your food properly, the food particles are bigger than their normal size.
Right.
When they're going down in your gut, the bacteria in your gut doesn't recognize that food. So when the bacteria doesn't recognize that particle of food, it's not digesting it.
So it's not breaking it down. It's not extracting the nutrients out of it.
Exactly. It's not extracting the nutrients. It is not giving your body the needed nutrients that you actually
need to function.
Yeah. And at the same time, your brain is not being signaled that I've got enough food.
Right.
I've got enough nutrients.
Right.
So you keep overeating.
Right.
And the concept of saying like chewing food and really going slow when you're eating food is so important, that your gut takes 20 minutes, roughly 20 minutes, to send a signal to your brain
That I've had enough.
That I'm full. You don't need to eat more.
Right.
So when people are eating so fast, they are missing that signal.
Right.
And what happens is after 20 minutes, they feel bloated. They feel, acidic, and all those things, cascade of things that start happening.
And that's a lot of unhealthy habits. Like if you drink carbonated stuff while you're eating, that will also cause
exactly.
bloating.
It's so important. Like you see this glass of water now. You can see this. If I put some wheat or rice in it, the way it's going to really show up in this glass of water, it's going to be very, I would say, it will seem inflated and not too good. That's what happens when you're drinking water while you're eating food.
Yeah.
So eating water between your meals is not a very healthy thing. Right?
Yeah.
You should stay away from, and the idea is that when you are eating your meal, drink water at least 20 minutes
Before.
the meal, so that your body gets ready to digest that food. It has sort of the required fluids in your body. It is
Yeah,
digested
the acids, the stronger the acids are, the easier would it be for them to break the food, right?
Exactly,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So when the food is being digested, it needs that acidity in the stomach, which is a very low pH value of 1.8 somewhere. It needs that acidity to digest food. But when you're putting water right there and then,
It dilutes it.
It dilutes the stomach acid. So when it dilutes the stomach acid, it's not going to do its job.
Yeah.
So very important. What do you do? The activities that you do around your meals. A lot of people drink water, sodas, teas,
Yes.
right after their meals.
Right.
And
right.
that's pretty common.
It's becoming a tradition. Like, I mean, even if you go out on to eat, I mean, it's like a normal question: would you have tea or coffee after your meal?
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true. And
yeah.
essentially, it should be either before your meal or it should be after at least 30 minutes after you finish your meal. So giving that break is very important to not let stomach get disturbed with its normal set of activities. Very important. Then meal times is very. People are not eating their breakfast until 11 a.m.
Yeah.
Their dinner until 10 p.m. Well, the
Right.
bodies are not made like that.
Right.
Now, our religion, Islam, says that drop the food as soon as the time the sun goes down.
Yes.
We've noticed that, and not just in Islam, a lot of other religions will talk about that.
Right.
We're understanding, going back to the faith that we follow.
Yes.
We really need to understand that our bodies are made such. Get your meal, first meal, which is breakfast, earlier on in the day. And then you should stop eating food at least 3 hours before your bedtime.
Right.
Most of the people don't have that gap.
No.
Right? And they don't understand that has an impact on weight loss.
Right.
Eating your meals earlier in the day, changing around your meal times does have an impact, a huge impact, maybe a greater impact than all these diets
Right.
on your weight loss, because this is a habit.
Right.
Diets are just a sort of like a shortcut that you adopt for 2-3 months,
Right.
and then you can't do it anymore because you're done with it.
Right.
You're so frustrated, you're exhausted, and it's so overwhelming. But habits are long lasting.
Right.
They're
Well,
sustainable.
yeah, I understand. I mean, the thing of it is like when you have breakfast and you have lunch and your dinner, or some people have 2 meals a day or whatnot. It's also important on what to include at those times.
Very
like,
important.
right. I mean,
That's true.
what you eat in the morning and what versus what you eat at night, and how it should be balanced. Like, I mean, in a day you need certain amount of nutrients, but when do you get those nutrients also matters.
Very important.
So if you wake up in the morning, your mind is fresh, and that's when you need certain amount of nutrients, and when you're trying to go to sleep, you don't need those nutrients, so because you need that sleep to kick in. So what do people need to know about that?
So very important concept is how we've heard about eat your breakfast like a king. Very important. A lot of people are missing this point. They're not eating their breakfast as wholesome, or some people not at all. Just a toast with some butter, eggs, and tea is all they have in their breakfast. But having all the macronutrients and the major food groups in your breakfast are very important. Think of it this way: you are in a state of rest for 8 to 9 hours, 8 to 10 hours maybe, after which you're having your first meal. Your body needs a kickstart for the rest of the day. You need to add some protein, some fat, some healthy complex carbs in your breakfast. So your breakfast should be the most, you can say, nutrient dense meal of the day. That's very important, right? And your dinner, ideally, if you are having it so late in the night, it shouldn't be too heavy, right? So understanding the composition of what goes into it. So let's say if you talk about breakfast, if you're adding some eggs, that's good. But then there should be some form of whole grain, like if you're adding some form of whole grain bread or whole grain roti if you have, that's good. A lot of people don't, let's say, eat yogurt. Like yogurt is a very good food, which lots of probiotics. Some form of dairy is being added to your breakfast, and maybe some fruit. Right. In breakfast is also desirable. It's good.
Right.
So these are the things that you should be adding in your breakfast, are compulsory, or sort of to have a good metabolism for the rest of the day and for the rest of your life as well.
Right.
You need to add a good wholesome breakfast every day of your life. It's very important.
Right.
And along with the different meals in lunch and dinner as well, there should be some form of fruits and vegetables. So if you understand the concept of a plate, right, what they say is half of it should be coming from fruits and vegetables. Literally half of it should be coming from whole food fruits and vegetables. 1 part whole grains, which is 1/4, and the other quarter is meat. What we see in our culture right now, the plate is it's just
Yeah, it's the
all over the
opposite.
place. It's just
Yeah.
the opposite, right?
Right.
We have more meat, more grains, and we have eliminated
The fruits and the
vegetables altogether.
Most people don't even like to eat fruits and
Most people don't
vegetables,
eat, right?
especially kids these days.
Especially kids,
Yeah.
right? And then let's talk about water.
Yes,
How
water.
many people are not drinking enough water, right? Hydration is so important. 70% of our body is water, right? And 70% of our body weight is also coming from water, right? And it's not just that. Different parts of our body have different compositions of water. So when it comes to brain, it's roughly 80% water. Some joints in our body are 75 to 80% water. So people who are complaining about migraines, and people are complaining about joint pain, it goes back to the fact that they are not hydrated enough, right? And talking about weight loss, why is water so important? When you drink enough water, water helps in weight management because it's acting upon the food that you are eating. It's breaking it down in a way that it's being digested and it doesn't accumulate as fat in different parts of your body.
Okay.
It gives this flow to all the food particles, to all the fat particles in your body, and really helps in the overall flow of blood, overall flow of all the nutrients. It acts as a medium of transport, just like, so it's very important. And secondly, when you're drinking more water, you tend to stay full, you tend to feel full, you stop overeating, and you don't have this tendency and craving that you would overeat when you are dehydrated, that you would notice. When you're dehydrated, you would reach out to something cold and sweet,
Right.
right? And that's when sugar sweetened beverages come in.
Right.
And if you have a steady flow of water intake in your day, you won't really need all these foods. Yeah, so
Right.
these are the things that.
Right. So, and what about the timings? Like you mentioned that people need to eat early especially when it comes to dinner, and even have an early breakfast. But what should be the ideal time duration? So you have this almost 12-hour window where your body is not consuming any food or calories, and so it's basically a good time for your digestive tract to kind of sort of relax. So is that beneficial? I mean,
Yeah,
does
so
that
what
help?
you're talking about is the concept of intermittent fasting.
Right.
Right, a very good and a very new concept what we see from what used to be back in the days from the different religions, like Islam says, like we've been following fasting
Yes.
ever since we've been told, and
Right.
Muslims have really seen benefits of fasting all
True.
this while, right?
Yes.
So a lot of people, when they could not observe fasting in that way, different cultures came up with new concepts. So what we have now is intermittent fasting,
Right.
which is sort of quite effective as well. Maybe not
Right.
as effective, but it's quite effective. So what you're doing is when you are eating your dinner at 6 p.m. and then the next meal, which is breakfast, is at 6 a.m., a 12-hour window which you're not eating, and there's a 12-hour window in which you are eating,
Right.
you're basically giving your body some rest.
Right.
And what happens is when you're giving your body some rest, your body goes in a state of ketosis. Right? This stage of ketosis is when you are burning more fat than your normal, usual daily routine, which is very important because when you are giving your body this rest of 12 hours, it is going into this fat burning stage, which is really going to help you in not just losing your body fat,
Right.
but also being prepared for the next meal of the day.
Right.
So it is going to metabolize it in a much better way.
Right.
Right. So there are different concepts and the different ways of intermittent fasting. The one that you said right now is a 12-12.
Yes.
But there's a 16-8 and there's an 18-6 as well. What the 16-8 is, you are staying hungry for 16 hours and there's just an 8-hour window in which you are eating. Take an example of, let's say you are having your dinner at 8 p.m., let's say, and then your first meal is actually your lunch or mid-noon meal at 12. And from 12 to 8 is all that you are eating. 8-hour window, 16 hours you are hungry.
Right.
right? So which is sometimes it's difficult to understand for
Right.
people.
Right.
But when you start following it, if your body responds to it, then it does a lot
Yeah,
of.
but as Muslims, we know that, I mean, during the summer times in certain parts of the world, I mean, you do have like a 15 to 16 hour fast. Like, I mean, because the sun rises early and sets late, and some parts of the world, it's like even like it's in the northern hemisphere or the really south, because of the way the timing of the sunset is sunset and sunrise is not as consistent as we have in the tropics and stuff.
Which is literally like a 17 or 18 hour fast.
Exactly, yeah. So it's basically the same concept. It's just that now science has done this research and they've come to the conclusion, oh, intermittent fasting is good for you. But we've had this for quite some time.
We've had
now.
this, and I think intermittent fasting is still easier
Right.
than the Islamic fast.
Well, yeah, because you're
Because
doing it at nighttime.
You're doing it at night time, and most of the time is
You're
actually
sleeping.
spent when you don't want to eat that much food.
Right.
You
Right.
know,
Right.
generally you're sleeping and you get waking up, and after that you get down with your day. But with Islamic fasting, it's actually tougher. But if people have been doing that and like experiencing so many benefits out there, then intermittent fasting is something that people should definitely try.
Right.
Trying to lose weight. So again, another strategy, as you said, is to try intermittent fasting. There's all of these habits that we're talking about are so effective and instrumental than just going for all the fad diets, which are not going to be as effective in the longer run. Talking about any of the diets, keto diet and paleo diet, vegan, it's a 5% carb diet, let's say. Keto diet, 5% carbs. You're staying away from most of the fruits, staying away from most of the grains.
Right.
Not eating rice, not eating wheat.
Right.
What are the foods, basic foods that are cooked every day in your home?
Yeah. Yeah.
How are you going to stay away from all of these foods the rest
Yeah.
of your life?
Right. You can't. You
you
cannot.
Either everybody starts following the keto diet,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Or you change your routine in a way that you have everything done for you in a separate facility,
Right.
right? Which is not easy.
Exactly.
So people, and a lot of people, I'm sure who there's, watching this, there are meal delivery companies out there.
Yes. Yes.
Which are delivering keto food,
Yes.
which are delivering low carb food and, food for all of people. But how long are you going to go on
Right.
on this?
Right.
Is this something sustainable? Are you going to do this for let's say for the next 5 years of your life?
Probably not.
No, definitely not. There's a lot of money, there's a lot of effort that goes into it.
Yes.
And you know what, the food companies, the food industry out there, and the dieting industry, I feel they are in like sort of in a collusion.
And the pharmaceutical industry.
And the pharmaceutical industry as well.
Yeah.
But let's just talk about the food industry
Yes.
and the dieting industry. The food industry makes all these foods saying that we make what our consumers need.
Right.
Well, if that was the case, then you should start promoting cocaine as well, because that's also something that people need out there.
Yeah.
Right? And all those drugs.
Right. Right.
When it comes to dieting industry, some diet becomes popular and they start, all the foods revolve around that, all the food magazines, and they're promoting it.
Celebrities,
Right? And
yeah.
what they show you is a very false image. They show you the before of a person and an after.
Right.
But they don't show you the after.
Right. Exactly.
Right? Which is very important, right?
Right.
They don't tell you what the diets that you're following, what exactly is it going to entail. The keto diet that you're following, a 3 to 6 month program, what does it entail? How much investment are you going to do on this program? And what is the percentage of people who follow this diet
Right.
actually end up losing weight and put it off for the rest of their lives?
Right. Right.
There's no statistic on that.
No, because it's not regulated.
It's not regulated.
Yeah. Yeah.
So people really need to understand not to fall for these traps. These dieting industries, what they're doing is really promoting it in a way which might sound attractive in the short term,
Right.
but in the long term, it's something that you really need to work on long-term sustainable eating and lifestyle habits that are going to do the job.
Thank you once again for
Thank you.
being
My
with
pleasure.
us on the show. And all right, viewers, I hope you enjoyed it. And we'll come back with another show hopefully soon. See you then.